Hi everybody, I wanted to go through what to do if you have a short sale seller. Now there's three components that we need to talk about. Number one is marketing to get a short sale seller, and that will be addressed in a different video altogether. The next component would be what to do when you have a potential short sale lead that you have in your hands. You're not really sure if they're a short sale yet, or they're just a lead in general of a seller. So first thing that I want you guys to do is make sure that you're using your seller pre-listing appointment information sheet, which all of you have. There's lots of them in the office as well. And what you want to do is go ahead and fill out this as you're talking with the seller. Try to ask these questions and get an idea. And you're going to see one of the most important things that I ask would be, how much do you think that your home is worth, or what would you like to sell your home for? This is a very important question because it gives me an idea of what's in their mind right now. Do they have an idea? Are they thinking low? Are they thinking high? I need to know that before I even go to their house, walk on their door. So let's see, after we've got our pre-listing appointment information sheet filled out, at that point we've got to do some comparables. And of course your job would be to set the appointment, and then before you go to the appointment you need to do all of your homework. Let's just say that I've got an idea that my particular potential client is living in Roseberry, and they're telling me that they have to sell for $550. I do an initial set of comps, and I see that the highest one that sold was $469.9. Red flags are going off. And at this point, I know that we're probably in a short sale scenario, especially if I'm looking and the bedrooms and the baths and the levels all appear to be the same. Maybe even the home that they're wanting to sell looks very similar to this one, or is the same model, or at least the same square footage, or very similar. At this point, we know we have a problem. Okay, so at this point, I already know we have a potential short sale situation. All right, so next on our list, we might want to call back our seller and go through the pre-listing questionnaire, things to know before agreeing to a short sale listing. You do not want to take an overpriced listing if they tell you that they need to sell for $530, $550, and you know that the highest priced one has sold for significantly less, and you're never going to be able to sell it. Do not take that listing. Do not take that listing. You need to recognize that there is a short sale scenario at this point. And then you need to have a talk with a seller and say, well, seller, thank you for calling me, and always it's my job to make sure that I'm helping you, and I really want to make sure that I'm able to help you achieve your goal, and your goal would be to sell the property. Now, looking at my initial view of the comparables, no home has sold for that much. Now, they're usually going to tell you something like, yes, but my home is better because, and because $50,000, it's not going to happen. No appraiser is going to allow that. So I always tell them, and I agree with you that your house is a very nice home. However, there's one thing that I will explain to you about the real estate process. In order to sell a home, I must, just like every other real estate agent, sell the home twice. First to a purchaser and then to an appraiser. And I don't really care what appraiser it is. They're never going to appraise more than the active comparables and sold comparables in the area. So I'm never going to be able to get $50,000. I can't convince an appraiser to give you $50,000 more. So at that point, do you recognize the fact that you may need to do a short sale? Some already know, some don't. So at this point, why are you doing the short sale? Would you rather stay in the property? If so, don't list it, because if they really want to stay, they're going to end up, the bank will at some point send them loan modification documents, and then you spent all that time doing nothing and you're not going to get paid. So let's not waste their time and our time and buyers agents' times and buyers of the world's time. If they want to stay in the house, recommend that they try to do the loan modification process. You cannot charge for this, but you certainly could provide them some advice. Okay, if they are like, no, we don't want to stay in this home for XYZ reasons, okay, great, then we can continue with our short sale process. Are you behind on your payments? Is there a foreclosure date? I need to know this now, because how urgent is this matter? Are there any liens on your home, or how many liens are on your home? So I need to know. If there's 5 or 6, that's 5 or 6 sets of negotiation you've got to do. Just keep that in mind. And who are the liens with? Of course, I already need to know, what banks they're working with, and if there's an HOA, if they're behind on their HOA dues, what about their taxes, and their mortgage companies. So again, the condo and HOA dues, are they current? Yes, if I'm hoping that they're current, and if they're not, we need to make sure that we're negotiating for the cover, to cover those fees as well. Other than that, you're going to end up short on settlement day. It's going to be a very big problem. Are there current taxes? Again, guys, this is just for the initial time. I'm going to talk more about this during the transaction video that I'll do. But right now is your initial set of questionnaires to determine whether or not you're able to help that seller, if it's going to even make sense to list the property. Are the taxes current? Do you have pending litigation? Is there contractors that are suing you, or do you have any lawsuits going on? We cannot sell a property if there's lawsuits going on. Have you spoken with a bankruptcy attorney? I will tell you this, if they're considering bankruptcy, think long and deep before you leap, because a lot of these bankruptcy attorneys will tell them, do not do a short sale, just let me handle the bankruptcy, because the bankruptcy attorneys want to get paid, and that's their job, to sell themselves, and they try their hardest to convince people not to do the short sale because it means more work for them. So they do not want us to do the work. They want and they will do everything in their power to convince the people not to do it. And it's very hard to stand up against an attorney. It is in their best interest to get the short sale approved. It's not in your best interest ever to have a foreclosure and a bankruptcy on your record. However, the bankruptcy attorney isn't thinking about their credit. They're just thinking about their paycheck and how much work that they really want to, get involved with. And a short sale means extra paperwork and extra filings and extra work overall for them, and they don't want to do it. Are you willing to miss payments if required? Some people don't want to miss a payment ever, and sometimes, occasionally, the bank will come back and ask them to miss a payment, and they better be prepared to do that if they want the short sale to go through. I never tell them this. I just tell, and if it does come from the bank, guys, make sure it's not coming from you. Remember, you're the resource, not the source. So you want to make sure that the source comes directly from the bank, and maybe provide them documentation that the bank is asking for them to be 30 days behind so that they don't blame us for it later. Are you willing to bring cash to close in order to foreclose? Sometimes the banks will ask for cash contribution. It's usually not that much money, but a couple $1,000. But I guess somebody who's not paying their mortgage really should have a couple $1,000 cash. But if they don't for some reason, this could be a problem. Most of the time, they'll let them come to the table with zero, but we do occasionally have a situation where and you want to prepare them for this, because if you don't tell them that the bank may ask for cash, even if it's just a couple $1,000, they're going to blame you, because most real estate agents will say, oh, I do it free of charge. Yes, the seller does not have to pay us a dime, but the bank may ask for some money. So then you need to prepare them for this. Are they willing to sign a promissory note if they do not have the cash contribution? A lot of times they'll say, okay, fine, we'll have a separate promissory note for you to pay, $10,000, over the next 10 years. That's something that they can do. Will you agree to possible tax consequences in order to avoid foreclosure? So a lot of times when it's an investment property, the IRS will not forgive you on the mortgage debt. The Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act does not apply. So remember, if you need to learn more about this, you can go to IRS and Google Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act. Read all about it and educate yourself. Okay? Do not ever become an IRS person or an accountant or a tax person. So make sure that when your clients ask you these questions, you tell them that they need to consult their CPA or their tax professional. You are not a tax professional. Do not pretend to be. You could give them a link to the code and say, well, this is what I know, but you need to find out if you qualify. You do not know how many other properties that they own or what the details of their life, and so you cannot assume that they fall under the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act, because the last thing you want is to tell them that they fall under it. Then they end up getting tax consequences, and they're going to come after you for the bill. Do you want that? Then stay in our profession. Okay, so make sure that you do that. What are your plans when the short sale is complete? Where will you live? Are you going to rent? Are you going to, maybe sometimes if they bought it in one person's name, and then the other spouse is going to buy. All kinds of scenarios. I always need to know this up front, because if they say, I don't know, this kind of scares me a little bit, because we've had scenarios where the people do not want to leave. So anyway, this is something to you know, you need to think about. And I've also had scenarios where people say, well, I'd really like to rent back. So then I'm really searching for an investor to purchase it because it'll make a win-win scenario, assuming that the bank will allow that. Do you own any other properties? Because sometimes the banks won't let them do the short sale, or they may attach funds that you know, like the deficiency credit, you know, on the other properties, or you know, other scenarios that may happen. So I always ask is, do you own any other properties, or know anyone else that I might be able to help? Again, you got to get these referrals. If you're not getting referrals, you are bad at your job. Okay, I'm just being honest. You need to get referrals. It's the cheapest, easiest way to do business. There's no excuse. So better get those referrals. And the only way to get it is to ask for it. Because trust me, if you don't ask, you'll never receive, because they don't know you need it. Okay, but you do need it. I promise you need it. So ask for it. Also, is your client, is or was your client in the military? In other words, this is for you, obviously. Are you in the military? If so, there are special programs that they may qualify for, but it's a good thing for us to know up front so we understand, you know, what program to possibly put them in. And there's lots of different short sale programs. There's the HAFA program, which is my favorite of all. They'll actually give you the listing price that they approve before you put on the market. But a majority of the time that doesn't work. Most of the time we have to list it anyway. Even if it is HAFA approved, or it does become HAFA approved, we can still adjust the price, but it just starts out initially that we need to put it on the market. Okay, so remember to use this pre-listing, short sale pre-listing questionnaire, and ask these questions. If you don't ask, they won't tell you. It's not that they're lying, it's that you just never asked. Okay, and if you're working with a buyer, you might want to ask this: who's handling the short sale? If there's an agent, I'm a little bit concerned. I want to make sure that there's some short sale negotiator. How many short sales have they closed previously? If there is, if the agent has done this, and you can look on MRIS and find yourself. How many liens are on the property and have they been verified? There's a lot of times people won't tell you that there's additional liens because maybe they don't know. I don't know. Is there an HOA or condo association, and are those dues current? How many documents have you submitted to the bank? Once all the documentation gets submitted to the bank, it's a much quicker process, and that's why we ask this question. The payments current or not? Like, some of these agents will not answer these questions, but it's always good to just ask and say, listen, I know, you know, a lot of times sellers don't really care, and really my buyer needs to know in order to make an educated decision on whether or not to make an offer on this property. I know, is there a foreclosure auction date currently set? Hey, if you don't ask, they're not going to tell you. Does the seller have cash to contribute? Will the seller agree to a promissory note or possible tax consequences? And will the seller permit the buyer or the buyer's agent to speak to the lenders? Well, you can always get an authorization form. All right, there's one more thing I want to show you. Once your seller has agreed to do the short sale, and that, you know, they answered all of those previous questions in a favorable manner, what you want to do is get the short sale information sheet out. You want to get the bank's names and fax number, and I have two fax numbers because one is for the authorization line. The authorization line is a different number than the regular fax. Some now use the Equator system. If you don't have an Equator account, you need to get one right away. So Equator.com, okay? Make sure you go to Equator.com and sign up for your account. If that's the case, you're not going to need to fax anything. You're going to be uploading everything. But other banks do not use it. There's only about 5 or 6 banks who use Equator. The rest of them all, you have to still fax. And in fact, I wouldn't fax anything, guys. I would be FedExing it. It's just the way to do it. Other than that, you see how I have date. It's the reason why. It's because they're always going to tell you that the fax machine didn't print something. And then this delays the whole short sale process. Oh, ridiculous amounts of time. FedEx it, you don't have that problem. Anyway, you need to get the borrower's last 4. If there's more than one borrower, you got to get both of their last 4 of their social security number. Of course, you're going to have to get their names, their legal address, you know, the property address, home phone number, cell phone number. And here's some of the documents that you're going to need to collect. An authorization form. We have all of these in the office. An authorization form, that's the most important document for me up front, because you can't speak with the bank until you get this form filled out and signed by the clients and then sent over to the bank. You're going to need their signed W-2s. This is really important that they're signed. The last 2 months bank statements, the last 2 most recent pay stubs, a hardship letter, a financial worksheet, your comps. Obviously, at this point, the listing agreement, because you don't even have a ratified agreement. Okay, you're going to HUD a pre-HUD as soon as you get the offer. And 4506T, you can actually Google this and you'll find it as well. My suggestion would be to find out the bank that obviously their bank name, go to that bank's website and look for the short sale package, download it, and have your person fill it out. Because every bank at this point has their own short sale package. There is not a unique, a standard one that we used to just use the same one over and over again for all the banks. But now they have their own short sale, and they'll make you fill out theirs. So just go to their website and get the short sale package, download it, and have your clients fill it out ASAP. Most important thing, again, like I said, is the authorization form and the listing agreement. You can't put it on the market without a listing agreement. And from there, we're going to go into just marketing the property as usual, listing the property as usual, until we get an offer. At that point, we're going to go to our next video, and we're going to learn more about what to do in the short sale process. All right, thanks.